And why do I say so? We've had the Conservative Party, the current government. Things have not been so great for Mr. Boris Johnson. And Boris Johnson has always found ways to still remain at the helm of affairs. Is it too late for him? Yesterday was a confidence votes amongst the Conservative Party members, and although he held on, although he won the no votes casting, things doesn't look as promising for Boris Johnson. And I won't be surprised if the newspapers this morning all carried the story of Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Yesterday, when I spoke to Priscilla, I asked Priscilla, will Boris Johnson survive the month of June? Well, very soon Priscilla will be joining us, and of course we're going to look at this particular story here. But let's move on. Let's look at the newspaper headlines here. And we begin with the Times. The vote of confidence in Prime Minister Boris Johnson, which he won 211 in favor of Boris Johnson to 148 people, MPs who voted against Boris Johnson, dominates Tuesday's front pages. The Times describes Mr. Johnson as a wounded victor and points out that a number of past Tory prime ministers have been forced to step down shortly after winning confidence votes by greater or similar margins. But Boris Johnson, as I keep saying to people I have discussion with to do with the Prime Minister, I think they'll probably need a forklift to remove Boris Johnson out of number 10 Downing Street. He's not going anywhere. Let's look at the Financial Times. The Financial Times leads says that the vote exposed the scale of division and animosity in the Conservative Party, and that the revolt was far more serious than Downing Street had expected. It quotes one minister as saying, "Anyone who thinks this will draw a line in the will draw a line in the sand is wrong. All the people who were unhappy with Boris still be unhappy." Let's look at the Metro. A lot of the stories are leading with one particular picture of Boris Johnson in a car with looking rather confused. So let's see what the Metro is saying. The headline in the Metro reads, "The party is over Boris." The paper says the Prime Minister's days in Downing Street now look numbered. Though also quotes him calling the vote as a decisive and very good result for politics and the country. Well, I'm sure we're going to delve into all of that, Mr. Prime Minister, whether it's actually a very good result for you and the country, whether it's a very decisive vote for you to carry on at the helm of affairs. The Mirror again has a picture of Prime Minister Boris Johnson with his head down. Party's over Boris, and of course, alluding to the Partygate story. Johnson suffers brutal attack by 148 of his own MPs and is warned he will be out in a year. Okay. Let's look at The Guardian. The vote delivered the worst verdict on a sitting prime minister by their own party in recent times, says The Guardian. The paper says Mr. Johnson has in effect lost his majority support in Parliament and that there is a risk that his government may now be paralysed. The Independent, the Eye claims that the Tory backbenchers are now privately urging the cabinet to stage a coup against the Prime Minister. The paper also carries an article by polling expert Sir John Curtis, in which he warns that 1 in 3 Tory MPs should fear their jobs. Well, there's going to be a backlash. Surely there's bound to be a backlash. Knowing the way that Mr. Johnson carries on, there's be backlash. The Daily Star, carry on Pinocchio. Obviously alluding to the fact that although he has won, he's going to carry on with his lies, because Boris Johnson did say that this was a good result for him and also for the country. The front page of the Star features a picture of the Prime Minister with an added Pinocchio nose. The paper says that the big fibber Bozo Johnson is clinging to power after surviving an embarrassing vote of no confidence, and that he has survived to lie another day. Okay, let's look at the Daily Telegraph. The Telegraph says Mr. Johnson's authority has been crushed by the vote and describes him as clinging to power. The paper also says he will now have to contend with leadership rivals and maneuvers. The names: his 2019 opponents, Jeremy Hunt, Defense Secretary Ben Wallace, and Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt as possible successors. Okay, it's not good. It's not looking good for Boris Johnson, is it? But according to Boris Johnson, this was a good result for him. And I think he's trying to move away from the Partygate issue. But would this be enough for him to carry on? Well, a lot of the papers are suggesting otherwise. The Sun, Night of the Blonde Knives, stabbed in the back by 148 Tories. This is interesting. I mean, has this really got to do with people stabbing Boris Johnson in the back? Really? I mean, some of these headlines, you do question their motives. I don't know if there can be any suggestion to toe along the lines of this is nothing but other people's doing. I beg to differ. Clearly, he brought this upon himself, Mr. Johnson, that is. The Prime Minister was stabbed in the back by the 148 rebels on Monday's vote, says The Sun. The paper also quotes Mr. Johnson saying, "We are going to bash on." This is definitely Boris Johnson's words. We're going to bash on. Now, this is interesting. Daily Express: defiant and unbowed Boris, I will lead party to victory. The Express reports that Prime Minister has hailed the vote as renewed mandate to deliver for Britain and vowed to lead party to victory. Okay, wasn't expecting anything different by the Daily Express. Now, the Daily Mail: Boris vows I will bash on, to carry the same quote as the Daily Express. Yeah, and the Mail says that MPs who voted against the Prime Minister have hit the self-destruct button by opening the door to smirking Starmer coalition of chaos. The paper quotes one MP loyal to Boris Johnson as describing Monday as the first day of the civil war. So clearly there is division within the Conservative Party. What do you think? Can Boris Johnson hang on? Is this a good win for Boris Johnson? Does this prove that he has the confidence and he has the mandate to carry on leading his party and also being the Prime Minister here? I mean, history will suggest that he doesn't. And history also suggests that at some point, Boris Johnson will step aside. It happened to Margaret Thatcher. It happened to John Major. It happened to Theresa May. And mind you, all the names I have mentioned all fared better than Boris Johnson. And one particular interesting part to this whole saga, because I remember Theresa May, I think the vote against Theresa May was 37%. Boris Johnson is 40%. And at the time, Jacob Rees-Mogg on Theresa May's on the people that voted against Theresa May, he came out and said, if you have a third of your MPs who do not have a trust in you, that means you ought to step aside. You ought to resign. Against Boris Johnson, in the case of Boris Johnson, where Boris Johnson actually performed worse than Theresa May, Jacob Rees-Mogg has changed his tune completely. Now saying that at that time when he made those comments, his peers said, those comments were wrong and he accepted it. How interesting. This is the nature of politics. This is the nature of politics. Politics is about numbers. So if you're the leader and within your party, there's a split, there's a division within your party, how do you carry on leading your party? How would it work? Are Boris Johnson's days numbered for real? Or would he be able to override this? I mean, we've seen from the party gate, I think it actually started really from the COVID. And then right on from the COVID time, the amount of misinformation, inconsistent policies, right through to the exposure of the party gate, lying to Parliament, went to the party, didn't attend the party, was there for only a few minutes. It wasn't, it was a party for somebody that was leaving. I mean, where do you even stop? And then, of course, the inflation, the cost of living is on the high. Where does this end? So I would like to know this morning, has Boris Johnson brought this upon himself? One. And secondly, is this down purely on his, I would say, character as opposed to his policies? And will he survive? I keep saying, I don't think Boris Johnson is leaving office number 10 Downing Street anytime soon. And I think they will definitely need a forklift to remove Boris Johnson from number 10 Downing Street. Priscilla will be joining us very soon, and we'll be ready to take your phone calls and your messages. Just to remind you, we are streaming live on Facebook, so you can head over to Facebook and leave your comments on there. And whilst you're there, make sure you share. Okay, make sure you share and follow us across all social media platforms. As I'm talking right now, myself, I'm going to share on my platform, so do the same if you're listening in, and do call in. Okay, do call in. Don't wait till last minute before you pick up the phone to call. The number to do so is 0778 793 9958. 0778 793 9958. Let's hear your take on this. How will Boris Johnson fare? How will this impact him? Has he escaped, or there's still more to come? We're taking a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion, and by then we'll have Priscilla on. This is GN Radio UK. My name is Jones Awuah. The time now is exactly 8:31. We'll be right back.
Davidson Band UK is at 8 again, all my days. And this time around is gonna be bigger than ever. Guess what? They are bringing the maestro, Mr. Music Man, the legendary Kojo Entry. Also performing Keche live in concert UK with the Davidson Band UK. This is gonna be happening on the 30th July 2022. DJ on deck, DJ TQ, hosted by Da Force. Venue, Dominion Center 9, the Broadway High Road, Wood Green, N226DS. Tickets available at www.eventbrite.co.uk. This is a must not miss show. See you there. Yeah.
The world as we know it has changed, and so have the issues affecting our community.
COVID-19 and the geopolitical tensions have really made it abundantly clear that the African continent has to do more to be self-sufficient from an industrial capacity point of view.
Join me, Jones Awuah, on GN Breakfast Show as we look at issues affecting us here in the UK, with a close eye on trending stories across the world.
When we invest from the UK into infrastructure in African countries, that it is absolutely transparent.
With a focus on Ghana's social and political issues.
I mean, it's not about you thinking about, your money, the Sikadiya Basa. It's not what our authorities should be thinking about, or officials, but rather they should think about the nation.
The Breakfast Show with Jones Awuah, starting 1st of June from 8 a.m. on GN Radio.
Davidson Band UK is at 8 again on my days. And this time around is gonna be bigger than ever. Guess what? They are bringing the maestro, Mr. Music Man, the legendary Kojo Entry. Also performing Keche live in concert UK with the Davidson Band UK. This is gonna be happening on the 30th July 2022. DJ on deck, DJ TQ, hosted by Da Force. Venue, Dominion Center 9, the Broadway High Road, Wood Green, N226DS. Tickets available at www.eventbrite.co.uk. This is a must not miss show. See you there. Yeah.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Jones Awuah. This is GN Radio UK. If you just join us, we're looking at the morning headlines and Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson has survived no confidence vote. But how has this impacted him moving forward within the Conservative Party and the leader of the country? I mean, love him or loathe him, Boris Johnson has always, I think when I was speaking to Priscilla, I called him the Teflon Boris. Looks like nothing sticks on Boris, but is this the final straw? Is this the final thing that will bring his reign to an end? Some other newspapers are suggesting it's not. I don't think they can fool anybody. Of course, he's going to send out his supporters, the likes of Dominic Raab, making the rounds this morning, talking about how this win is good for the Prime Minister. But comparing this results to previous results, history points to one thing. It's not looking good for the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, whatsoever. It happened to Margaret Thatcher, it happened to John Major, and most recently, Theresa May. And by looking at all these names, that these former prime ministers that I've mentioned, they all did better than Boris Johnson when there was a vote of no confidence during their reign. But Boris Johnson thinks this was a good vote for him and he can move on, and he needs to concentrate on what he has been put in office to do. So I'm asking this morning, is Boris Johnson at the end of his reign, or can he carry on? One thing I have noticed about Boris Johnson, one thing that is clear, is that Boris Johnson never gives up. He is not going anywhere. He is definitely not going anywhere. But is this right for the Conservative Party? Should he move on, move to the side? Okay, this is from Karima. Karima is saying on our Facebook, by the way. So if you're on our Facebook, leave your messages on there. I will read your messages out. If you want to call in, you can do so. 077 8793 9958. You can call in, all right? And you can air your views as well. Karima is saying, how is this normal? Boris Johnson needs to be ashamed. America is heading his way. He should go. Lie another day. Yes, that was one of the newspaper's headlines. He remains in power to lie another day. So, how can he survive? How can he survive? You're leading a party, because at the end of the day, you become a leader of a party due to the fact that the party members, your MPs, vote you in. And then when there's a split, there's a division, it's very difficult to unite a Conservative Party. I mean, mind you, a lot of people will not have any sympathy for the Conservative Party at this precise moment because they knew the caliber of the man whilst they voted him in. Yeah, he's not your typical conventional prime minister. However, he does know how to win elections. And I think at the time, this was what they were thinking. And one of his success stories is the fact that he was able to get Brexit through, regardless whether you agreed or disagreed with him. He was able to get Brexit through. All right, now let's cross over and speak to Priscilla. Priscilla, good morning. Thank you for joining us once more. Yesterday we had a fascinating conversation. Not really knowing what's going to happen, my first initial thought was he will probably win and the rebels will not be able to have that much impact on his leadership. But they proved us wrong this morning, Priscilla.
Good morning, Jones. Thank you for having me again. Well, like you said, Teflon Boris, but how long, how much longer, how much more life does he have is the question now. Because in as much as, yes, he won the vote, but, like you rightly said, Theresa May won the vote, John Major won the vote, and Margaret Thatcher won the vote. Margaret Thatcher left a few days later. I think John Major was a matter of weeks, and I think with Mrs. May it was 6 months. So as much as he's won the vote, his grounds are still very shaky, very, very shaky. There are no, his position is no longer tenable because, we're talking about 2/3 that voted against him. That's a huge majority from the backbenchers. I think it was something like 114 votes, 44 votes, or there, something like that. And that's a lot of people that says that they no longer have confidence in him, in his party. And I think that as much as he powers on no matter his failings. There was a video put out by, led by the donkey yesterday. You could see throughout his life, as it were, he seems to fill up, in the words of Annalise Keaton. He seems to fill up. In other words, it doesn't matter what he does, he gets promoted. Yeah. It doesn't matter what he does, the lies he tells, and because telling lies seems to have been something that he's been doing for a very long time, and having this mindset of I deserve it no matter what I do. It doesn't matter what he does. He believes that it's his right. To be in office is his right to continue, is his right to be given, is his right no matter his wrongs. And his rap sheet is quite long before he became PM. So the question really remains, how did he become PM in the first place? And when the party says, he got Brexit done, he did this, he did that, if you look closely to the whole he got Brexit done, what did he do? He effectively worked against his predecessor, worked against her, ensured that her deal was not voted for. And the moment she left office, he held up the same deal and had the deal voted for. So he didn't do anything new. He didn't change it. I remember one
particular quote from Boris Johnson at that time. He said, "Chuck checkers."
Yeah, exactly. So when you look at these things, you have to ask yourself, really? Did he really do anything? He didn't, So, but I don't know how this man continues to get gets the support required. Well, I've said it. He fills up. It's a gift for a specific group of people in our society, of the male species, most especially. They tend to, some of them within a certain ranking, seems to fill up. In other words, it doesn't matter what they do wrong, they will still get promoted, they will still get pushed into the next big thing, they would they will still be given a job. But for the vast majority, put one foot wrong and nobody hears your name again. But Boris can put all of his foot, his fingers and toes and his head, everything wrong, and tomorrow somebody's still calling his name for something and creating that opportunity that he gets to ride on. And so but I don't know how long he's going to last, Jones. I don't really think that
the Conservatives are doing fantastically bad in the polls. And what about the people that still support Boris Johnson? People are saying that, look, especially to do with the Partygate scandal, people are saying, look, he was not the only one having drinks, having parties. Look, he's had it tough. First was the pandemic, and now, the high rise in cost of living. And there's a war in Ukraine. Leave him, let him get on with his job. these are all just distractions?
Those people need, I don't know what to say for them. Have they really... Okay, so let's go back to your first statement. The pandemic, he had a hard time. Did we all not have a hard time? Is there anybody that could say, hand on heart, if they were not directly affected, they did not know other people who were? The vast majority of society had a hard time during the pandemic. The issue is not whether or not he had a hard time or whether or not he had a party. The issue is that he broke his own rules. You cannot give rules to other people and you break it. I think if it was the case of he had one party or he attended one party, or if it was his birthday and, as it were, with one of the parties, I think that will be understandable and perhaps overlooked to a degree. But the fact that there were numerous parties suggesting that whilst everybody else was going through the challenges of losing relatives, of losing their jobs, of struggling to eat, there were a group of people who had told us all, who had put us in that situation. They were having a party on a daily basis. Now that's very hard for a lot of people to forgive, and then to just say, let's just overlook it now and move on. It's not so easy, because for the losses for some, it's permanent. Now, concerning the situation in Ukraine, we keep going on about this war in Ukraine. It confuses me somewhat, in the sense that, how is it our problem in the United Kingdom? How is the war in Ukraine something that we need to be focusing our attention on? I appreciate that as a result of this war now, there's been a lot of talk about the grains and wheat and so on, and its effect and impact. But just like with many other wars that we have seen around the world, if the West, and I'll say it again, if the West would just simply leave other people alone, these situations will not happen. We're saying that we're going through the cost of living crisis. Is it really, is it a crisis? It's not a crisis when the government can just sit there and happily oversee, appear to just be comfortable and okay with. As we said yesterday, they received as MPs £2,200 increase, and Joe Bloggs, that works at the hospital, receives 19 pence, or that works as a civil servant receives 19 pence as an increase. How is that fair? And how can the government justify that? And you say there is a crisis?
Well, some might argue that, on your comments about how does the war in Ukraine got to do with Britain. Some might argue that Britain is a member of NATO and a significant member at that.
So yeah, if we're really that concerned about the impact of the war in Ukraine on humanity and on our food supply and on the poorest, and we really have a heart for them and we're concerned, then should we not revisit our policy? How did the war in Ukraine come about? Why are we here today? We're in this war in Ukraine because, do you remember, let's just rewind back to, say, February, March, before the war started. We kept on, our newspapers were screaming every day, the war's about to start in Ukraine. Russia, it looks like Russia may attack Ukraine or invade Ukraine. We just kept on screaming about a war that hadn't happened, as though we were, wanting the war to happen. Okay, put that aside. Then, we're looking at the situation as it is. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of these things are happening because we are constantly interfering. If we're really that concerned, then why are we constantly arming Ukraine to fight a war that doesn't need to be fought?
Well,
We've heard our Prime Minister telling us about the supplies that Britain, the support and supplies that Britain is sending to Ukraine. Why are we not at the table with Russia and saying, right, how do we prevent this? What can we do to descale the situation, to de-escalate the situation? What can we do so that we can broker some kind of peace agreement so as not to have this huge impact on the world, on our people? You know, we're cutting off our nose to spite our face is what I'm seeing here, because, you know, the US, when you see the decisions that these people are making, it makes no sense. The US are saying, no, we're sanctioned on Russia. We will no longer get our oil from you and whatnot. But then you run to Iran. Iran was your enemy yesterday. Iran was, on yesterday, we couldn't mention Iran and the US in the same sentence. Oh, but it's okay today to go to Iran to get to discuss. So it makes no sense at all. So we cannot.
I quote. I think it was the president of Ecuador, if I'm not mistaken, that said, "We don't have permanent enemies, but it's all about our interest." So
absolutely, that's a fact. That's a line that's used a lot in politics. There are no permanent enemies in politics. It's always about their interest. Yeah. It's always about somebody's interest, and so but unfortunately, whilst they are battling and for their personal interest, the cost, they never measure the cost. The cost is you and I. The cost is borne by, society, is borne by innocent people who have no idea what is going on, who are not interested in, what the politicians in their country, the choices and decisions that they make, if given an opportunity, would not vote for the country to go to war or to support war in a region, in the way that the politicians choose to do.
And finally,
these are things that if we look at it carefully, we need to really ask some pertinent questions. I don't agree with all of those that say, oh, but war in Ukraine and cost of living crisis, because these things are things that if we really had the heart of the people, the concern, real genuine concern for humanity, we would do better to make sure that people are not as affected, are not as impacted by these situations.
And finally, what do you think will be the last straw for Boris Johnson? I do understand that there are a couple of by-elections coming up. One particular place is Wakefield by-election. This is, I think, around 22nd or 23rd of June. Now, this particular seat was held by Labour since 1930s, and Labour lost it to Conservative in 2019. However, it has become vacant due to the fact that the former MP there was accused for sexual misconduct against the boy. So a lot of Conservatives, if you look at the newspapers today, are saying that this will be probably the last straw. Depending on how Conservatives perform, that this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak.
I hear that, but there's a saying that says man proposes and God disposes. We must not ignore the hand of God in a lot of the things that we see, even if it doesn't go according to how we want it. So I'm not sure that Wakefield will be the last straw for Boris Johnson. I have a feeling though that Dominic Cummings, he's still the angry assistant that had to give up his job, and so I think he's probably going to tell us have another scandal up his sleeves that he would want to release against his boss again, his former boss, I should state, that he would hope will bring him down. I'm not sure, given what we have seen to date and given the history of Boris Johnson, I don't think that his end is as predictable as we would like to predict. I think we just literally have to wait to see. Yes, the Conservatives are losing seats around the country in by-elections here and there. Their biggest fear as a party is losing their majority. Their other second fear and problem is who will take over, because even with us looking at what they have at the moment lined up, I don't really know who can be trusted. Not that Boris Johnson can either, but who can people believe in? Who can come along and take the Conservative Party, hold it together, and be able to win elections? I can't see it at the minute, and I suspect most of the general public can't see it either. So that's their worry as a party. I don't know. We can't. He fails up, sadly. So because he fails up, we shouldn't just write him off just like that.
Now, when you were talking there, Priscilla, you did made mention of the war in Ukraine and its impact on in Europe and the world at large. It has been reported that now Europe is looking towards Africa to import gas and energy supply. Now, this is interesting because as it's had negative impact, especially on the continent when it comes to wheat and oil and so on and so forth. It has also propped up, should I say, a positive way for Africans to also capitalize on this. So Europe now turning to Africa for the energy supply. Is this something that you think is going to last, or is this just short-term solution, and before we know it, we're back to where we were before?
Now, this is so interesting because, at least for my lifetime, Europe has spent a great deal of their time working against Africa's development. Africa does have oil and gas and all of these things in abundance, but they've always also had to deal with the not being allowed to develop these things. Now Europe has cut their nose off to spite their face, and you want to now go to Africa. I must say that for the first time, I'm actually in agreement with the African Union, where they have decided to remain neutral where this war is concerned. I'm in agreement with them. It is an opportunity for them. How well and how best they will harness that is left to be seen. But I think it may be a challenge because the African countries themselves, and as much as they have, in abundance, the gas, the oil, and so on, how well have they been able to harness it for themselves? I do know, for instance, that Nigeria supplies electricity to the neighboring Niger, I think, but they can't supply sufficiently to themselves. So it's interesting to note that. So it begs a question, but why can't you do it for yourself, but you're doing it for another country? Yeah. It's just odd. So maybe, just maybe, that ability to do it for somebody else but not for yourself is there, and they would be able to, now that the West wants it, they may actually allow them to produce in abundance, so as to be able to, they can have some. So it's an interesting state of play. I think that it's an opportunity for the Africa to take full advantage of this and stand their ground and work together for the benefit of Africa's development and for the African people.
And finally, Priscilla, before I let you go, another unfortunate circumstances this time in DRC, just as we spoke about yesterday, where people were killed at a church in Nigeria. It has also been reported that at least 20 civilians were killed on Sunday in Ituri, in the northeastern Democratic Republic of Congo, in a new massacre attributed to the Allied Democratic Forces. Now, when it comes to the issue of security, this is a problem, and I think it's fair to say in most parts of the country, most parts of the continent, this has gotten out of hand.
It has. I mean, we touched a little bit on this with Nigeria yesterday. I think what we're seeing here, Jones, is acts of terrorism running rampant across the continent. I always thought it odd. I mean, in Nigeria, for instance, we're talking groups. We're hearing names like, I should say, ISWAP, ISIS, Boko Haram. There's about 5 of them, and all of these are operating independently, and now taking responsibility for attacks. And you just think, where are we going? When did these groups become so rampant and able to attack in this way? And so we've got ISWAP, Ansaru, Darussalam, Boko Haram, bandits. We've also got ISIS that operate, because ISIS took responsibility for an attack in Borno State in Nigeria recently. And you just ask yourself, we've come to know now that terrorism doesn't just form out of thin air. When we see terrorist activities, it's usually because there are those who fund it, those who put it together, and they always operate for a reason. It is not just, we were made to think that Boko Haram is because they were against Western education once upon a time, but I think we understand now that has nothing to do with it.
Absolutely.
So with these groups that are springing up, whether it's in the DRC, it's in Nigeria, it's in Mali, it's in, whichever part of Africa that we hear them operating, we must understand that, there's always those, as I've said, who are paying for it, who are sponsoring it for their benefit. And I hope that the African Union can work together to rid the continent or to protect the African people more than anything from these attacks. It's unacceptable. The bloodletting on a daily basis is unbelievable. I mean, for any African, the question is, have we not suffered enough? For how much more longer? How much do we have to take? It's very unfair, and but the governments themselves need to work with the African Union. They need to work for the interest of their people and not for their own personal interest or for the interest of whatever groups they belong to or for the interest of whoever their masters are. That says it's okay to just maim, kill, destroy.
Priscilla, it's always good having you on the show.
Always a pleasure, Jones.
It's time for us to move on. Thank you for joining us. All being well, we'll see you again soon, probably tomorrow. Who knows? Thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. That is Priscilla Unwickbo, broadcaster and also a political analyst. We're taking a quick break. When we'll come back, elections coming up in Kenya. Is there going to be a new candidate, or is it going to be the same old faces? Stay tuned. And don't forget, later on in the show, we'll cross over to Ghana. Some interesting development in Ghana. It would be good to hear your take, your thoughts. You can do so via our Facebook page. Leave your comments on there, and I will read your comments. Or you can call in 0778 793 9958. 0778 793 9958. This is GN Radio UK with myself, Jones. We're going for a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
Davidson Band UK is at 8 again, all my days. And this time around is gonna be bigger than ever. Guess what? They are bringing the maestro, Mr. Music Man, the legendary Kojo Entry. Also performing Keche live in concert UK with the Division Band UK. This is going to be happening on the 30th July 2022. DJ on deck, DJ TQ, hosted by Da Force. Venue, Dominion Center 9, the Broadway High Road, Wood Green, N226DS. Tickets available at www.eventbrite.co.uk. This is a must not miss show. See you there. Yeah.
The world as we know it has changed, and so have the issues affecting our community.
COVID-19 and the geopolitical tensions have really made it abundantly clear that the African continent has to do more to be self-sufficient from an industrial capacity point of view.
Join me, Jones Awuah, on GN Breakfast Show as we look at issues affecting us here in the UK, with a close eye on trending stories across the world.
When we invest from the UK into infrastructure in African countries, that it is absolutely transparent.
With a focus on Ghana's social and political issues.
I mean, it's not about you thinking about, your money, the Sikadiya Basa. It's not what our authorities should be thinking about, or officials, but rather they should think about the nation.
The Breakfast Show with Jones Awuah, starting 1st of June from 8 a.m. on GN Radio.
Yo, Ghana for you want English approach my moha. Ya sweady. Yenya emranimfo a won akwadare wo emranimu a poto kasemu ye kase a lawyer for entimi nuanom momyemfa ye immigration ensem nyina enko dan wo mo Fortwell solicitors emranimu akuku drofo se watna ha che ombeboa wo ma wonsa kan won krata na se wedi edro nso a eyom kokokra eba ne nipa sitenemu eni adwumamu nsem bia omudim akotene pa omu wo mre di mani pa bia na de enika wo mumpo ne se no consultation fee.
Fortwell solicitors always puts our clients' needs first. We specialize in all UK visa applications, detention and deportation cases, student and work points-based work permit applications from both UK and abroad. Fortwell solicitors also deals with long residence and human rights applications outside the immigration rules. Don't wait till last minute. Fortwell solicitors is located at
Unit 1, ground floor, Katrina House, 58 Clarendon Road, London, N80DJ. Nearest tube station, Tempark Lane and Wood Green. Overground, Hornsey Station. Buses 41 to Archway and 144 to Maswa Hill. For more info, call 0203 3257 030. Call our 24-hour line on 0754 8701 011. Website www.fortwellsolicitors.com.
opening hours Monday to Friday 9:30 to 5:30 p.m.
Thursday Beyonce Young Milton Keynes.
Fortwell solicitors is regulated by SRA.
Fortwell Solicitors.
Welcome back. My name is Jones Awuah. This is the GN Radio UK Breakfast Show. If you just tune in, my guest, we had Priscilla Nwikbo, a broadcaster and also political analyst. Looked at one story dominating the newspaper headlines here in the UK, the news agenda, I should say. Prime Minister Boris Johnson looks like he's a wounded man after Boris gained 211 votes against 148 MPs who voted against him. This was to do with vote of confidence in Boris Johnson. Soon we'll cross over to Ghana to look at one particular story, which I think is at the heart of discussion when it comes to dealing with politics, because the number one issue that keeps propping up when you talk about politics, and when I make this statement, I'm not just saying it's only peculiar to Africa, okay? So do not misquote me. The issue of corruption is at the heart of mainly every time we discuss politics in the context, of Africa. And I'll look at this because I think it's important. Rarely do you see a member of a particular party, a particular party speaking against another member of the same party. Well, in this case, maybe you can say that the person decides to speak up because the individual is no more, has passed on. Wealth amassed by Sir John with 3 years was too much, Obri Buahin. So this is to do with the incumbent government in Ghana. The Deputy Secretary of the governing New Patriotic Party, NPP, Nana Obri Buahin, has slammed the late Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission for amassing too many properties within the short period he was an appointee. Sir John sadly is no more, but his will suggests that he had amassed huge amounts of wealth in a short space of time. And these are, the leaders. These are the ones that we put our faith and trust in, whilst the average man is struggling to make ends meet. Anyway, we'll come back to that story very, very soon. But I want us to move on to one particular story. And joining us to discuss this is Julius Baluto. Also a very good friend of mine, a broadcaster, a journalist from Kenya. And I want Julius joining us for us to look at this story in Kenya. Raila Odinga, Kenya's IEBC, approves Azimio La Umoja presidential candidate. So while Raila Odinga comes from a famous family in Kenya, the political crown has eluded him throughout his decades-long career, just as it eluded his father, who served as vice president after independence from the UK. Now, mind you, Raila Odinga is now 77 years old. This will be his fifth attempt at the presidency. Every time Kenyans go to the polls, it's always between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. And joining us, as I did mention, to discuss this particular story is Julius Baluto. Julius, thank you very much for joining us this morning. If I may ask, Julius, Raila Odinga, is he coming back or not? And if he is, do Kenyans still have faith in him to be the one to take them to the promised land, so to speak? And is it time for him to defeat Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta? Or will Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta stand again? I mean, there's a lot to unpick here, Julius.
Yeah, to clarify that, Uhuru Kenyatta is not standing again. He's not standing again. He's finished his second term in office. And he has promised to hand over power. So we don't want him to be worried when he hears he's going to run again. Now, but however, his deputy, William Ruto, is the one standing against Raila Odinga, the former prime minister of Kenya. Of course, yeah, good question. That is he back? Of course, he has never gone anywhere. He has been on a journey to Canaan land. Sometimes he loses the way. He doesn't remember where Red Sea is. He goes through River Nairobi and shows up in State House for a handshake. So
fantastic description, Julius.
In different times, he has told Kenyans that, oh, right, the journey was aborted because he found crocodiles on the way. But away from political jokes, Raila Odinga is a driver and a big force in Kenyan politics. He has been detained for 9 good years in different times by former regimes. And of course, the bigger political heart he has, and also statesmanship has meant, surprised Kenyans to see for the very first time him working together with former President Daniel Arap Moi, who was responsible for detaining him. So he's been detained by this fella, comes out and he takes his party to this fella, and you're like, who does that? So yeah, cut a long story short, if you remember very well, last general election in Kenya, it was disputed. After Camry voted for Raila, the other bit of half or less than a half voted for Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, the current running candidate, William Ruto. But if you remember very well, it started with the Supreme Court of Kenya annulling the whole process, and calling for a different election because that election was marked by irregularities and violations left, right, center. So if you remember well also that time, last general election, Raila Odinga refused to compete. So it was just left one party which announced it won, although you cannot call it competition really. So that's the beginnings of that. But just after the election, after the court annulled it, after Raila never went back to the ballot box, of course he comes out, he saw himself, and for the very first time, yep, Kenya, we had 2 presidents in one country. and these 2 presidents realized it's just one country. They just kept their supporters away and they had this handshake and decided to work together for the peace of the country, which was amazing and great thing to do because it brought peace back. There was no mediation. There was no brokering of peace. It was 2 gentlemen, Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, going in a room, having a handshake, the 2 of them, because they were the key people. And coming out, just telling their followers, from now on, there was a handshake. So, peace. We have to give Kenya a chance more than anything else. And that was fantastic, Jonas. So where we are now, we have that handshake split each party down middle. It is split the opposition down the middle. It is split the ruling party down the middle. Because if you're on the side of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, you are like, oh, we won these fellas. We don't want to see them near us. Yet if you're on the side of opposition and Odinga, your followers are like, we are still going to Canaan land. You have to keep fighting. And therefore, because there are those who felt there are 2 people, like Raila has disappointed them because he wanted to go the way until they reach Canaan. Some of them were like, oh, we feel betrayed by the handshake. On the other side of the ruling party, Jubilee and William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta, they were also, there are those who, from them, there come, like especially Deputy William Ruto, the deputy of Uhuru. He didn't like the handshake. He has preached against it. He hated it because it brought nearer their opponent whom he did like.
And this was going to lead me on to my follow-up question, because of course, if Uhuru Kenyatta no longer contests, how long would this peaceful agreement last? Of course, nobody wants the aftermath of the 2007 elections anymore. Is there a case of is there something for people to be concerned about, Kenyans to be concerned about, or it was still the peace will still prevail?
Right now, there are 2 issues. Kenya for years since independence had never witnessed what came 2007. But that 2007 experience made Kenyans to be on their toes when election come. Actually, I will tell you the truth. Even the last general election, Kenyans would have fought because of this serious division and antagonism. But it was Kenyans who kept peace. Let me tell you something. When you look at Kenyans like, oh, Uhuru is mates, very angry about the outcome. And it was their supporters telling them, we don't want anything else. Go back to the ballot box. We fought for you.
Sure.
Amazing. Ordinary folks, you and me, is like the street chaps, people who have no power, controlling the whole thing.
Yeah.
And because Kenyans now, since that time, they know how chaos, how violence looks like, and they just don't like it anymore.
And just because of time reasons, Julius, of course, when it comes to leadership, we always talk about the age bracket. I mean, Raila Odinga looking to come back and hopefully reach Canaan this time. But his age as well, he's 77.
He promised to vie for one term. And
you think that's possible? You think that's possible, Julius?
Constitutional limit, number one, constitutional limit.
Right.
Talks about the age, but because of course being kicked out and kept out when he believed he won, of course they made kind of an allowance to allow him to vie. And in his own defense, by the way, he has been telling Kenyans, I'm a bit younger than Joe Biden. He's full of energy. And also Kenyans are quick to forgive him because of his role in political struggle, the change he has brought to the country, and the kind of, he's a magnanimous. When you talk about political sacrifices, he has made a lot of that. And Kenyans know that. And right now, there is a whole, every corner you go in, political parties have come to support his movement. So there's a huge support. Uhuru Kenyatta, who was his own key oppositionist last time, has been campaigning for Raila Odinga.
Wow. Okay, I think we've lost Julius. Julius, you still there? Okay, I think we've lost Julius. Okay, we'll try and get Julius back on. If we can't, we'll just carry on with the show. Interesting times ahead, indeed. Now let's cross over to Ghana and see what's happening in Ghana. Don't forget, you can call into the studio 0778 793 9958. Let's hear your take. Let's hear your take on what we've been discussing so far. Let's take this message. A few messages coming up. Let's read a couple, and then we keep on going, and we head over to Ghana. I'm really interested and fascinated about this particular story in Ghana. This is from James. James is saying, Jones, on the issue of Kenya, just like Julius mentioned, if you look at the last elections where people abstained from voting, nothing of such violence occurred, and we're hoping that it will remain the same. We need peace across the continent. We've seen massacres happening in the space of a few days, one in DRC, one in Nigeria, and most importantly, some of them do not get reported. So we call for peace. Kudos to Kenyans. And hopefully it will be Raila Odinga's turn this time. Could this be? I mean, like Julius was saying, he has made a lot of sacrifice. And it takes a certain caliber of a person to do that, because it's not a joke. It is not when it comes to politics, all over the world. It's not a joke. The nature of politics can be really, really dirty, nasty, where people end up losing their lives. People feel cheated. And it's very costly. It's not cheap. Politics is not cheap. So a lot of people get agitated and people get frustrated, and sometimes that is what happens. It spills over, and before you know it, people losing their lives. My name is Jones Awuah. It's now 22 minutes past 9. We're taking a quick break. When we'll come back, we'll turn our attentions to Ghana, and I'd like to hear your take. Corruption. People gaining all the wealth. People in high positions. Is your party in power? Obviously, you have access to a lot of things. We'll be right back.
Everything Band UK is at 8 again on my days. And this time around is gonna be bigger than ever. Guess what? They are bringing the maestro, Mr. Music Man, the legendary Kojo Entry. Also performing Keche live in concert UK with the Everything Band UK. This is gonna be happening on the 30th July 2022. DJ on deck, DJ TQ, hosted by Da Force. Venue, Dominion Center 9, the Broadway High Road, Wood Green, N226DS. Tickets available at www.eventbrite.co.uk. This is a must not miss show. See you there. Yeah.
The world as we know it has changed, and so have the issues affecting our community.
COVID-19 and the geopolitical tensions have really made it abundantly clear that the African continent has to do more to be self-sufficient from an industrial capacity point of view.
Join me, Jones Awuah, on GN Breakfast Show as we look at issues affecting us here in the UK, with a close eye on trending stories across the world.
When we invest from the UK into infrastructure in African countries, that it is absolutely transparent.
With a focus on Ghana's social and political issues.
I mean, it's not about you thinking about, your money, the Sikedia Basa. It's not what our authorities should be thinking about, or officials, but rather they should think about the nation.
The Breakfast Show with Jones Awuah, starting 1st of June from 8 a.m. on GN Radio.
Yo, Ghana for you want English approach my muha. Ya sweady. Yenya emranimfo a wen akwadare wo emranimu a poto kasemu ye kase a lawyer for entimi ne no mo yemfa ye immigration ensem nyina enko dan wo mo Fortwell solicitors emranimu akuku drofo se watna ha che ombeboa wo ma wonsa kan wo krata na se wedi edro nso a eyo mo kokokra eba ne nipa sitenemu eni adwuma mu nsem bia omudim akotene pa omo wo mre di mani pa bia na de enika wo mu mpone se no consultation fee.
Fortwell solicitors always puts our clients' needs first. We specialize in all UK visa applications, detention and deportation cases, student and work points-based work permit applications from both UK and abroad. Fortwell solicitors also deals with long residence and human rights applications outside the immigration rules. Don't wait till last minute. Fortwell solicitors is located at
Unit 1, ground floor, Katrina House, 58 Clarendon Road, London, N80DJ. Nearest tube station, Tempark Lane and Wood Green. Overground, Hornsey Station. Buses 41 to Archway and 144 to Maswa Hill. For more info, call 0203 3257 030. Call our 24-hour line on 0754 8701 011. Website www.fortwellsolicitors.com.
opening hours Monday to Friday 9:30 to 5:30 p.m.
Thursday Beyonce Young Milton Keynes.
Fortwell Solicitors is regulated by SRA.
Fortwell Solicitors.
Welcome back to the show with me, Jones Awuah. Before we went on a break, we were talking to Julius somehow. Julius' line dropped, and I'm happy to say we have Julius back on the line. Morning, Julius.
Morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Please continue.
Brilliant.
Where you
Okay.
left off.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
That's fine. So
Yeah.
we were talking about the fact that, 2007, we saw what happened, and of course, Kenyans have moved on now, and then we moved on to the fact that, Raila Odinga is coming back again after several times of attempting to become the president of Kenya. He's vying to come back again, but he is 77 years old. And as you did mention, he said he is fitter and slightly younger than Mr. Biden of the USA. But one thing that, again, keeps coming up, Julius, is health implications. I mean, it's just human nature. The older you get, you're more susceptible to, all these kind of things. And is he fit to lead the country? And if he's only coming for one term, most of the times we see that one term is never enough. Is it going to go beyond one term, Julius?
It's never easy to trust politicians. It's never easy to trust politicians. But the history of Raila, it makes him trustworthy in a different way, because he has made a lot of sacrifices for Kenya. He has been instrumental for a lot of change, agitation for expanding democratic space in the country. He fought for the second, what is dubbed second liberalization. I don't know how much you know about the history of Kenya, but from 1982, Kenya, the constitution was changed, making Kenya just a one-party state, which means it's like coming to the UK, and only by law, Conservative Party is the only party that's supposed to be existing. Can you imagine country going through that? And you can't legally form another party. So fighting all these to be changed, Raila was key to that drive. That's what Kenyans call second liberalization. And of course, they fought for this legally pressure until it was repealed, allowing for multi-partyism, whereby now the democratic space was bigger. So there are those, not long ago, 2010, with his drive, with his former president, late Mwai Kibaki, they also drove the country to rewriting the entire constitution of Kenya, removing all the leftovers of colonial laws and consulting with Kenyans so that the laws of the land will reflect on the wishes of Kenya. So as we speak, Jonas, Kenya's constitution is one of the most progressive on the continent, if not the world. But when you look into all this role, or Raila's role in Kenya's politics and change, makes Kenyans trust him. And that's why I think not anyone is focused on the age of Raila right now than almost everybody across the country, people saying it's a time for this man. So you can imagine, even from the places he has never been voted for before, you see people supporting, coming up saying it's time for this man. So there's a huge chance he may be the next president, fifth president of Kenya, by the way, by the look of it. But of course, there's opposition led by Uhuru's deputy, William Ruto. He seems to be also very strong in a different way, because he has gone down to the local, the common people on the ground, like people who sell mangoes and pushing wheelbarrows and telling them, I'm like you. Although we know it's a lie. He's a billionaire with helicopters and whatever. But he told them, he was pushed in a wheelbarrow, to say, I'm one of you. We don't know how many will believe he's one of them and vote for him. So it's kind of populist kind of politics he's using right now. But we don't know whether that wins or not. I mean, we have seen a lot of Julius Malema with populist politics down in South Africa. So I think we are in for interesting times in Kenya.
Absolutely.
But good thing, they still keep peace. Peace is still key. And Kenyans remember not to go back to 2007. It's not about the politicians.
No.
It's about Kenyans themselves. They are the ones who chose never to go back there.
Absolutely. Julius, thank you very much for taking time out to talk to us today.
Always pleasure.
Thank you. That was Julius Baluto, who is a broadcaster and also a journalist. So now let's turn our attentions to Ghana, as I did promise you that we would look at issues in Ghana. And this particular story, there's a few stories that I wanted us to focus on, but as you can imagine, time is heavily against us. And for that reason, I think we will concentrate on this particular one. I did see a video making the rounds on social media where there were men in uniform. It's claimed, it's reported that men in military uniform clashed with Zongo youth over land alleged to belong to Lord Kome. And it was frightening. It was a frightening thing to witness, to be honest with you, that these mere civilians are capable of arming themselves in military style. But I think this is probably more potent right about now. So the Deputy General Secretary of the governing Patriotic Party, NPP, Nana Obribwahin, has claimed that the late Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission for amassing too much properties within a short period he was an appointee. Obribwahin believes that if the late Kojo Owusu-Afriyie, Sir John, could amass such wealth, then it is obvious that those still living could do more than that. And I quote him, if within a period of about 3 years he was able to amass this wealth, what about those still holding positions? Properties within a matter of 3 years are too much, so it should be a source of concern, end quote. And I think, I quote him again, he says, I'm not in support of it, else people would hurl insults at me and tag me as a bad person. They will also say I support crime. He is dead now, but there are others who are still living, who are CEOs, among others. Have we dealt about those two? He asked. Okay, so this is the wealth of the late Sir John. So he has a house, one plot located at Oyarifa, which was acquired in 2018. Another plot acquired in 2017. Another plot acquired in 2019. A 4-bedroom house on plot, a 4-bedroom house in East Legon, acquired in 2018. 2 plots of land acquired in 2018, and also 1 plot of land acquired in 2019. So you be my guest. Let me know your take on this. There's been a lot of discussion, especially when the issue of when it comes to discussing the issues pertaining to Africa. And I did make mention of this. This is not peculiar to Africa, okay? I think it's a global thing, but it seems to be happening more when it comes to the case of when it comes to Africa, simply because, there's high level of unemployment, poverty rate is high, inflation is high, economies have taken a massive nosedive. However, these leaders in positions, the ones that we entrusted to make the right decisions on our behalf, are rather enriching themselves. Mr. Yawson is joining us. Mr. Yawson is the chairman for the Progressive People's Party UK and Ireland. Mr. Kit Yawson, thank you very much for joining us. What do you think should happen looking at this particular story?
Good morning, Jones, and I say good morning to all listeners. One would not say glad, but I'm very happy to hear such a story coming from NPP, New Patriotic Party corner, coming from United Party corner, coming from Dr. Buzia, Dr. J.B. Dankwa's corner. These people, the NPP, the United Party, they are the same, Progress Party, they are the same people They accused Sajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah of being corrupt. The man who did the best in Ghana, the Convention People's Party on the Nkrumah, they did the perfect job in Ghana. They rubbished him, they overthrew him. NPP overthrew Nkrumah for being corrupt. And we Ghanaians we are aware of what Kwame Nkrumah did. We are all witnesses of what Kwame Nkrumah did. And listen, let's look at Sir John, one man in NPP. 2017, 2018, 2019, amassing this wealth. Was Akufo-Addo sleeping? That is the question. I'm not even worried about what Sir John has stolen. A dead man has stolen and given to relatives. That one we are going to deal with it. Was Akufo-Addo sleeping? Women in a private jet and they're hiring private jets all over the place? Who is he and what has he done? What was he doing? That's the biggest question. If only one man, even a dead man, has stolen this much, what about what the living men are stealing? For that we don't know. For that we do not know. I keep referring to Rollins and people get afraid. I am telling you the truth. When Rollins came, he taught us a big lesson, not to steal, use our position to amass wealth. Do we want the soldiers to come in again? And Akufo-Addo is warning Ghanaians. Hello?
I'm listening, Mr. Yossin.
Hello?
Mr. Yossin, you still there? Mr. Yossin? Oh, okay. I don't think. I think for some reason Mr. Yossin's line has dropped. You can call 077 8793 9958. Let's hear your take on this. I mean, what's interesting on this particular story is the fact that it is an MPP man who decided to talk about this. Rarely do you see these kind of things happening. However, could this be down to the fact that the man in question is no more, has passed away, and as such, he can speak about it. But if we look deep at this issue, I mean, it's no hidden secrets. People have always said it. When it comes to politicians, you can never trust politicians. When it comes to the time for election and them wanting your vote, you can never... they go the extra mile to convince you to put them in office. And if you look at the way in which people are struggling and suffering right about now, leading up to the global pandemic from 2017, meaning that this is when his government came into power. And for his own party member to utter these words saying that it is too much for somebody who has passed away, let alone somebody who is still in post and alive. How did we get to this? How did we end up here? What happened to serving the people? Or is it just about serving one's interest? Then what's the point in campaigning? What is the point in campaigning? If your sole aim is to gain power, come into power, and then enrich yourself. Look, I've said this and I will re-emphasize on this. I do not support coup d'etats, and I will not support coup d'etats. And I wouldn't even entertain anyone who wants to go down that road. I wouldn't. Many of my friends will tell you, people I have conversation with will tell you, because the implications and the aftermath of having a coup is serious. It sets the country back so many years. Yes, it's not perfect. Things are not perfect. However, when leaders stand on the podium, I mean, look, we know politicians don't tell the truth. We know that, right? We know that. But at least have the decency. Have the decency when you go on your campaigns. The little child that is still studying under trees. The families who are unable to have access to healthcare. The roads, the accidents that keep happening, the level of unemployment, and one person can enrich themselves on this scale. I'm sorry, but in terms of having hope, after reading this particular story, we always knew it was there. I mean, you hear of corruption and people getting into power and, enriching themselves and looking out for their families and their loved ones. And I mean, you hear of these things, but to actually see it in the open in the space of 3 years. In the space of 3 years, for that to happen, each and every individual, every Ghanaian must rise up and question the current government. And this should not be looked at as an isolated case, because it's not. If one person is doing it, clearly others are doing the same thing. Mr. Yosin.
Hello, I'm back here again.
I think we lost you earlier, Mr. Yosin.
Yes, I realize you lost me. See, this matter is very serious. We must ask MPP to stop everything they are doing and answer this question. We must take them to task. All those empty-headed people who are saying 4 more for Nana, 4 more for Nana, we want them out. Let us bring them out. Let's just bring them out and let them speak to us. The NPP people who are saying Nana is not corrupt, let them come out. Come on. If Nana's agent, Nana's MP is a thief until death, what about him and his other ministers? Japan royalties. We know all this rubbish, nonsense, thievery, stealing of Ghanaian properties, gold and all that. There's not even gold in Kwapim or East Eastern region where Nana comes from. Yet they've got Japan royalties with gold at the center of it, stealing Ghana's property. When people talk, they say don't talk. When Jonas, small boy like that, when he talks, they say don't say it. When Kevin Taylor speaks, they say don't speak. When Wamawa, Fix the Country boys and girls talk, they say don't talk. What is MPP doing now? They are now naked. They're a group of naked thieves that are running Ghana. We must caution them. We must put them on the wall and let them face realities of life. We must never forgive them. They are all Christians. But this one, we cannot forgive them. We must not forgive them. Or we have to line them up in public for them to address Ghanaians about their thievery. That is why they have failed to declare their assets, including the Akufo-Addo himself.
And that was going to be my follow-up question, Mr. Yosin. I mean, in light of this, is it not time for there to be a law that forces anybody who decides to hold public office to declare their assets?
Well, thank you very much. You see, my party, I said we took Dr. Papa Kwesindom declared his assets in 2012. Immediately, the party was formed. Well before we went into general election, the year 2012, Dr. Papa Kwesindom declared his assets. Nobody did. Akufo-Addo did not. He was rather interested in the Supreme Court trying to fight Mahama for elections that he lost. Supreme Court hearing took place. MPP did not declare their assets. NDC did not declare assets. PPP, our party leader, he declared his assets. And also he declared his medical bill of health, of his private medical health. We took him to Korebu to do that. The reason was that doing the job of a president was a big job. So if you are not fit, if you are not healthy, you cannot do it. So Dr. Indom opted, he did a medical examination and it was published. Nobody's done it. And now MPP who chase NDC, incompetency and all that, apparently they are all thieves. I don't know what Bawumia has stolen. I don't know what Akufo-Addo has stolen. If their member of parliament, Sir John, has stolen this much, has acquired this much wealth in 3 years, 2017, 2018, 2019, before he died, then what don't we know that MPP knows? It's a big question. We must never forgive them. We must not let them jump onto the platform to campaign for elections, to take part in the general elections. We must stop New Patriotic Party from taking part in the next general elections. They've stopped Kwesindom from doing his job. Thousands of people are home, and they are stealing from Ghana because they know we are good enough to catch them. So they stop Indom from coming into the fray. They stop Progressive People's Party from coming into the fray. We are going to stop them. Stop them because they are even not part of the independence. MPP say don't give Ghana independence. Muzi and JB, they said it. Do not give Ghana independence. They did not attend our independence celebration. They refused. Condemn Nkrumah to the end. Apparently they are thieves. Nkrumah himself hasn't got properties. His only property is Laboni Estate.
Mr. Yosin, I mean, as I did mention, we hear of stories and accusations, and this was no different in terms of the level of accusations at previous governments. And right now, this has come to light. I mean, obviously, you've mentioned a few names, which I have to say that they have not been accused of anything. But on a bigger note, we know that this is serious in other African countries, okay? Does this prove that when it comes to, or should I say, does this prove that corruption is actually endemic in the political system in Ghana?
Of course, it has been endemic during the period of New Patriotic Party. The right man who was doing a clean job, they say he was corrupt. Okay, we didn't argue. They came into governance. Look at what they have done. MPP has spent more years in governance than Kwame Nkrumah. He spent only 9 years. Kufuor came for 8 years. MPP is going for 8 years on the Akufo-Addo. Buzia came for 3 years. 8, 16, Buzia 1, 2, 3 years is 19. So MPP together, they've got 19 years at the moment. Nkrumah had 9 years. Look at Agusumbo, look at Tema, look at the Tema motorway, look at the Tema Harbor that Nkrumah put in place. KNUSC, University of Science and Technology, KNUSC, Cape Coast University. So many secondary schools Nkrumah put in place. Workers' Brigade and Builders Brigade and State Hotels Corporation and all that. Now, NPP came to publish all of this. We are quiet. The children of Nkoma, we are quiet and watching. But now, what we have seen is too much, that we must stop NPP from taking part in any future general elections. In fact, today, if you have to retire them today, so must it be. Okay. That's why Nkufadu was afraid. And he warned Ghanaians, I think just about less than 2 months ago. He warned the Ghanaians not to attempt a military takeover. But they introduced military takeover with Afrifa and Kutuka. The NPP brought a coup d'etat into Ghana. And now, because they know people will come at them, they say nobody should dare try to take the stage military takeover. They know what they have done. They know that if the soldiers get them, they will execute a lot of them. So they are afraid. We are watching and we are waiting.
All right.
That's why face the country boys and girls drop on the street. If they killed one in Ijira, they killed the first guy. Up to now, we don't know what's happened. This is corruption.
And how much does the public also? They must also take some sort of responsibility here, because
we can't
No. I'm not blaming them, but I think maybe it's high time that the public also push for this declaration of assets. The public also scrutinize policies. If the public hold the government, the current government, whatever government may be, to account and not let this slide, because the fact that Sir John is no more, and this is just my candid opinion, if he was still alive, this would not have come to light. So why wait till the individual is no more for us to have this discussion, for this to come to light, for a member of the same party to speak up about this?
That's a good discussion we are having now. Right now, the public is alarmed. We are all shocked. We are alarmed that this has happened under Nana Ado's government. I remember my counterpart, they called Nana Chum Barima. He was my counterpart here in the UK for NPP.
Yeah.
We were doing debates before 2016 election. Nana Chum Barima repeatedly said Kufadu is not corrupt. He will never be corrupt. Kufadu is not corrupt. He will never be corrupt. I hope Nana Ado, Nana Chum Barima will come back on radio to talk to us. The listeners of GN Radio are witnesses. Nana Chum Barima every day was on radio defending NPP, supporting NPP. I even supported Nana Ado in those years. I even supported him when he brought one district, one factory, and all that. We Ghanaians supported him. We respected him. We thought he would do it because we believed he was not corrupt. Now it has happened that after all, Nana Ado Dankwa is corrupt. Because if he's not corrupt, he should have spotted out one man, only one man in NPP amassed such wealth in 3 years. Then what has other NPP men and women not acquired for the amass? For that we don't know yet.
All right.
We must prove them.
Okay.
We must put them to court and prove them. And the whole of NPP, we must sanitize them and stop them from running the next elections without this scrutiny. It's now serious. It is not a joke.
All right. Mr. Yeltsin, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
That was Mr. Kit Yeltsin, chairman for the Progressive People's Party UK and Ireland. Now, when it comes to the issue of corruption, this really bothers me, because many of us are, still believe that there's still hope. And when we meet our peers or our counterparts working for other radio stations, when you listen to what is going on in the country, when you look at projections and the trajectory of the economies and the level of infrastructure, the industrialization in most parts across the continent, you get the sense that there's still hope. But then when these stories come to light, it just dampens your mood, dampens your spirit the entire day. And you just keep asking yourself, are things ever going to change? Will things change? How long must we sit still and watch so-called leaders take advantage of their position and amass themselves with enormous amount of wealth, whilst the average guy, the average man, the average woman, the average child suffers? When these leaders get ill, they jump on a plane and go outside the country to seek medical attention, whilst the indigenous people, the people that voted for these leaders, are left to die. Are left to die. In Ghana's case, I think in light of this particular story, and I will be pushing for this, and I hope, it doesn't really matter whether you're for MPP or NDC, because wherever government comes in, they should be able to declare their assets. They should be able to declare their assets. If we can't do this, if we don't push for this, then they will continue taking advantage of us. I'm done for another day. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is GN Radio UK Morning Show. All being well, I'll see you tomorrow. Keep the conversation going on our social media platforms. It is at GN Radio UK. All being well, I'll see you tomorrow. Take care of yourself and each other, and have a good day. See you tomorrow.
Davidson Band UK is at 8 again on my days. And this time around is gonna be bigger than ever. Guess what? They are bringing the maestro, Mr. Music Man, the legendary Kojo Entry. Also performing Keche live in concert UK with the Davidson Band UK. This is gonna be happening on the 30th July 2022. DJ on deck, DJ TQ, hosted by Da Force. Venue, Dominion Center 9, the Broadway High Road, Wood Green, N226DS. Tickets available at www.eventbrite.co.uk. This is a must not miss show. See you there. Yeah.